You are listening to Kate and Company. I am Caitlin O'Connor, a local real estate agent here in Rochester, New York. And in this podcast, we are not just talking real estate, but also about life and entrepreneurship. It's going to get personal. You are listening to episode 2 of Kate and Company. This episode has a trigger warning for mentions of anxiety and suicide. Today, I'm interviewing someone very special. She's taken her own experiences in life and learned how to be her own greatest teacher. At a time of deep loss and pain, she chose a path that would not only change her life, but transform it. With that came the transformation of so many other lives around her. She's a certified yoga instructor, meditation instructor, certified health and life coach. She helps discover superpowers and uncovers what's truly inside you. She's a wife, mother, entrepreneur, and she's my best friend, Stevie Fedele. Hi, everyone. Today's episode 2 of the Kate and Company podcast. A lot of people thought that you were probably going to be the first person that I interviewed when I said that I was starting a podcast. And because it was the most obvious choice, but for me, there's many different reasons why it would be an obvious choice to interview you. So thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Like, to me, it's not an obvious choice. Like, you could interview anybody. So, like, I'm just really excited that you did pick me and I'm here. So
I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Yes, of course.
Well, the obvious choice was that, of course, like when you start a podcast, like why wouldn't you want to sit down on a couch and talk to your best friend? I mean, why? So to me, it's not just, when I decided to do this, and I thought about all the reasons why, I am where I am today. What is the purpose of having a podcast? What do I want? What's the message that I want to get across to people? And really it was, I want people to be able to have the same resources I feel as though that I've had in business and in life and friendships and learn together. So not only, and you've been a huge part of my life for almost 20 years. Over 20 years.
Yeah,
oh my gosh, over 20 years.
Yeah, like almost 30 years.
And more so over the past 8 years, you've gone through a lot of transformations. Like a lot has happened in your life. And I want to talk about that because it's amazing. And I wouldn't be sitting here today if it weren't for you.
Vice versa.
Yeah. I'm like, I wouldn't have gone through what I have, like in such positive ways, if it weren't for you and like not only being an inspiration to me, but also in the work that you've done. So I'm thankful for that. Thank you.
Yes, you're so welcome.
And that's my TED Talk for you.
That's next.
Right, exactly. So what I thought about what the topic of today's episode is what everybody really asks about you and what you do is like, what the hell's a life coach? First of all,
a life coach is somebody that solves all of your problems. The obvious answer.
Every problem?
Every problem.
Okay.
Just magically. You call me and it's like snap your fingers and all your problems are solved.
So how does one find you? I love that. Well, because that's what I feel like people think that like, what is a life coach? Why? People probably think that when you call a life coach is kind of similar to when you call a therapist somewhat, where something has to be going wrong in your life, right? Where that's not always the case. You can see like you could be at the best point of your life, but you want to do something more and you know that there's something more there and you just need to get there. When did you realize that that's what a life coach did, or what did you think a life coach was? And I want to talk about your journey and how you have gotten where you are today.
Yeah. So the first thing that comes to mind, like even just when you say the word life coach, for me is like, I kind of always was a life coach. Like I was the person that like was coaching people through a lot of things. Like a lot of times I was in those like types of relationships, like where I was like the fixer and I was coaching, daily through things. And so what really happened was I came to a point in my life where I was needing all sorts of resources, like every resource that there could be.
When was this?
This was about 8 years ago. I was dealing with debilitating anxiety. Like, there was a lot of transitions going on in my life all at once that I wasn't really aware of, like, how it was affecting me, because I had always been I was like the go with the flow girl, the girl that never had anxiety, you know, quote unquote, the girl that just like took everything in stride. And then it was like I just had like one too many strides at once, and it just like came crashing down on me. And I never understood people with anxiety. I thought that they were, like, for lack of a better term, annoying. Like, I had no tolerance for people that had anxiety. And then it hit me. And I was like, whoa, like, this is horrible.
Like people who said, I have such bad anxiety. Oh, my gosh, my anxiety. But
right. Or people that, like, couldn't, you know, get out of bed. Or people, like, I just didn't get it. I was like, just get up. Like, you know, just be happy. And so it transformed me, like, because I was experiencing something I never thought I would experience. And I was like, wow, if like this can happen to me, this can happen to anybody. And so I kind of just went on this quest of like figuring out how to help myself.
What was the first thing that you did?
Well, I was just about to become a mom. And so like, it was very important to me to like get there quickly. Like, I need to get better. I need to be strong for my baby that's coming. Like, this is what I've wanted my whole life. This is the most important thing for me. And the first thing I did was I found a therapist. I Googled like what the thoughts I was having, like things that were happening. I found my way to the most amazing therapist. I actually like temporarily, you know, went on some medicine. I knew I wasn't going to want to stay there. And so after that, I, you know, went on it for a little while, and I was like, I want to get to the root of this. I want to get the tools that can get me, you know, through this. I want to know kind of where it came from. And so I started to do that. And while I was doing that, I started discovering me, like a big part
like
of that.
You discovered that you didn't need other people to help you. You like took the power, like you discovered you had power.
Yeah,
you had your own power to help yourself.
Yeah, and like I didn't really know who I was, you know, and so it was like discovering all that, like who am I? What do I really like want out of this life, you know? And what I realized is like I want to help other people. I want to help them deal with this debilitating anxiety. So the first thing I did was I'm going to become a therapist, right? So I got up the courage to tell my husband that I was going to go back to school. It was going to be like an 8-year journey. I don't know. But I was going to take it slow. I wanted to like be with my family.
And this was prior to when you became a yoga instructor, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So this was like Avenue 1.
Yeah.
This was how I was going to help people. So while I was in school doing this, and just had my baby, and I was working. Oh my
gosh, I forgot about that.
That I went to school.
Yeah,
at
I forgot
MCC
that you went
online.
back to school.
Yep. And I started like writing essays and like doing all these things that I could never do before. Again, like
all about that.
I never thought I'd have anxiety. I never thought I could write an essay. I was like getting A+ on these essays. So like I just started like showing myself that I could just do things if I just do them. But then throughout school, I found out how much I loved yoga, because like I was taking psychology classes, and it was like, you know, what do you like to do that gets you in flow? And that was like one of the most important questions I've ever been asked in my life. And I was like, I like yoga. So through this, I was also practicing yoga, like 4 days a week.
You've definitely.
That was like therapist, yoga. That was like my own personal therapist was yoga.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, never mind. Scratch that. I don't need to be a therapist. I can become a yoga instructor in like a few months, and I can help people in that way, because that helped me tremendously. And then I signed up to become a yoga instructor. And where do you want me to just keep going?
So, and this is the part that I feel like is so, it's really impactful. I feel like this is something that not a lot of, I mean, I feel like some people know your story, but not everybody knows your story. And this is something that is like, it's unbelievable. And not a lot of people have gone through it. So, of course, I'm leading up to it, right? But yeah, so you did something at a time in your life where you thought you were figuring things out, but
Yeah, so I was on this fast train to just get to helping people. And less than 2 weeks before I was starting my yoga training, which was going to be like every other weekend, full weekends for like 3 months straight. My husband was going to help, my mom was going to help. We were just going to kind of do it together.
Marky, your daughter,
yeah, I had my
home.
daughter right at home. And less than 2 weeks before, I was driving home from Charlotte from visiting with our other best friend for the week, and I got the phone call that my mom had committed suicide.
Yeah.
And there was really no part of me that was like, I'm not going to do this. I got to just stop and, be here with this. It was like, no, I got to do this.
Yeah.
And I just started it and did it.
So you took one of the most devastating times in your life. And this is where I feel that this is where I felt so inspired by you. And it wasn't just because of this one decision that you made, but the biggest tragedy in your life, and you've dealt with some pretty heavy stuff had happened. Your mom is gone, and you could have gone one way, but you went the other way. Why did you not? Did you feel like you didn't feel that you I just need to grieve here now? What was that decision? Like you said, you knew that you just had to do it, but most people would just put their life on hold.
Yeah, and I just said it as I needed to do it, and it was more like I was ready to do it. What the anxiety that I was talking about before that I had come to, from that day, that was, 8 years ago, and now we're talking about 4 years ago. Yeah. So at this point, I had some really hefty tools in my tool belt. And I had, I was more grounded than I'd ever been in my life. I'm even more grounded now, but I was, really, I felt like I could do it. It wasn't like I'm, compartmentalizing, what just happened. It was I have the tools to grieve and also continue on.
Yeah.
And so once I went through that, and those tools really grounded me, that led me into my life coaching, which was I had no doubt I couldn't coach people on life because I had just navigated the most traumatic experience, and I navigated it. I didn't just pretend it wasn't happening.
Yeah. And as you were going through that, I remember thinking, wow, I just have everyday life happening, right? I've got 2 little kids, we're going to work, life is so busy. And at the same time, you were such an inspiration to me because you had so much happening at once. I mean, you had your family, your mom had just committed suicide. That's a whole nother level that you can't even dig far enough to figure out why or what is happening there. And at the same time, you are also handling other family matters within the family because, of course, with any death in any family, it's never goes perfectly. There's a lot of feelings. There's a lot there. And you're also becoming a yoga instructor and focusing on the positive. And so I'm like, if she's doing this at this time in her life, I need to do something. Like, I can't sit here and I can't not try to better myself. And it was like little by little that I just continued to like kind of watch you and follow in your footsteps. And I'm not a life coach or yoga instructor, but it was so inspirational. And I feel like that is what has affected so many other people is what you did. And I don't think a lot of people know that story. And
I feel like we can't, like, we also have to, like, talk about, like, who my mom was, because that was a big part of it. Like, my mom wasn't, like, somebody that sat in her room depressed her whole life, or somebody that dealt with mental illness, or somebody that, like, you would expect this from, right? Like, my mom was, like, our go-to. Like, we, you know, I mean, some of the like closest years before this happened, things were starting to change.
I mean,
and
she maybe would have guilted, you know, you to go over a little bit. And like,
yeah, she was not perfect.
She was really good with the guilt trips.
Oh yeah. The Italian guilt. But like, it was also like this determination that like your mind and your, like, if you don't take care of your mind and you don't take care of your body, like, that's what I teach as a life coach. That's what I teach as a yoga instructor. Like, things can happen quick and they can, like, go a different way really quick. And so it was like, that was also such a push for me to, like, just get that out to people. Like, just keep really, truly, like, taking care of yourself. Like, don't just keep going till you burn out. Like, not that, but, like, keep going, like, one foot in front of the other, like, step by step, and, like, just take care of you, because things can
happen in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And there's high highs and low lows. And you said something that you're like, I had the tools in my toolbox to be able to go through that. And that's huge. And I feel like that's what yoga like had taught me is, you know, that the mind body like connection, where physically when things are happening, you can, when you're connected with your mind, you can calm yourself. You can have the ability to like think in that moment and not worry about 5 minutes from now, 10 minutes from now. And I think that helps people handle things much differently than they would have if they didn't have that.
Totally. And I just talked about this. I was just in my second year of my meditation teacher training. And it was like that moment when I went to go deliver my mom's eulogy. Like, I had never spoken in front of people. I was dealing with a lot of things happening around me, family-wise, you know, everything. And like my yoga and my meditation, it was like, okay, like, stand up from this pew.
Right.
Stand up. Put your feet on the ground. Take a step. Breathe. Take another step. And it was just like these tools that just slowly got me to that podium. Read what I, was there to do. And then slowly, like that moment. That was the only moment I could think about. Not like what's going to happen when I'm at the podium. Nope. Like, what's going to happen when I take this next step? Right. It was like I had to be all in and present. And like that's really the thing that I teach people is like becoming present in the moment.
Yeah. And so you decided, so you went through your yoga training.
Yep. So I was halfway through my yoga training and my cute husband, like just one day was like, he's always struggled within his career, it's like we
That's why I started laughing when you were like, wait, I went, not because he's struggled in his career. When you were like, so I told my wonderful husband that I was going back to school. I'm like, I forgot about that. Did I ever tell you that it wasn't a good idea? No. Yeah. But I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah. It didn't matter what anyone was telling me.
But it's amazing. Sorry.
No.
So you're halfway into that.
Yeah. And he was like, just, he was obviously going through a transformation too, because we lost my mom in this way. And I always say there's like two transformations. One is like the things that just happen to you externally that you have really no control over.
Yeah.
And like you just transform. It just happens. And then there's the transformation that you sign up for, you know, when you commit to something.
You sign up for.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. They're very different, but they get you thinking in different directions.
And I don't want to stop your thought process.
No.
However, that's like, I've never like kind of looked at it that way. Transformation that happens because of external resources or experiences.
Yeah.
The transformation that happens like within you for, you know, what you have in your own control, then the transformation that you sign up for. Mm-hmm. It's like, but if the first two didn't happen, can the third be as effective?
And
like
the third being?
The third being what you sign up for, right?
Oh, okay.
Or you sign up for, you know, transformation, and then the other two are just when things happen, you get so much more out of it. Mm-hmm. Like you know how to have that power of taking control of yourself and dealing with it in a different way. Or it's just very interesting. I guess I didn't think about like the three different aspects of like transformation.
Yeah, and even like as you're saying that, like
and I might be thinking too deeply of it, but
I don't think that like the one that you sign up for probably doesn't come if you don't experience like the external one, because let's face it, like we don't change usually until we're like forced to change in the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, and then once you get used to it, you start to sign up for transformation that doesn't seem so needed, you know, in the moment.
When you realize change is good.
Yeah.
And you've taken the time to focus on that. When living one way is not acceptable to you anymore.
Right. Just not doing it.
So what did Mark say when you were halfway into your yoga?
Well, so then he, you know, his whole thing, like when he's thinking very clearly, like goes and takes a drive. So he had gone like a 4:00 in the morning drive, and he came back and he had been like researching stuff on the computer, and he was like, hey,
4 a.m.
Yeah, who knows what time. That's his time, not my time. And so he was like, hey, I'm thinking about like signing up to be a life coach or like going through this training. First thing in my mind is like, really? And like, I want to be a life coach. Can I? And then like the second thing out of his mouth was like, do you want to do it too? And I'm like, yes, please. And like, this was at a time where, well, like all times, you feel like, can we spend the more money on me? I'm already like doing this thing about me. And, you know, how could I ask for more or whatever? Silly things we tell ourselves. And so we did. We signed up. I'll never forget. We started together. We like hit send on the computer, and like my lights in my ceiling flickered, and I was like, well, my mom's pretty excited that we're doing this. It was like as we pressed start. And I always had this thing with like flickering lights that my mom was around, you know. And
I just got the butterflies. So you got you certified to be a health coach and life coach, excuse me.
No, well, it started health coach and then it was life coach at the end. Yep.
Yeah. And people started to ask like, what is a life coach? Was that moment where, like, I feel like it was like when I first bought Bitcoin, it was a time where I was embarrassed to tell people that I bought Bitcoin. It was like Aaron and I were like, shh, don't talk about it with anybody. Let's just like play around with it and kind of see what it's all about. Yeah. But it was, you know, of course now it's totally different. But I remember if I ever told anybody that I bought Bitcoin, they were like, okay, are you okay? Right?
Right.
So like, was that like, what was it like when you told people that you were going to be a life coach?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm like,
do you think people took you seriously because people don't know what it is?
I don't know if they didn't take me seriously or if I didn't take myself seriously. I think maybe that was even more of it, because if you're confident in what you're doing and you're telling people what you're doing, you know, most of the time they're just going to kind of listen. But yeah, I guess maybe both. Like people would come to me with like the more skeptical people in my life, you know, and I would like freeze. I'm like, and I would like get technical about it, you know, and it's like, it's one call a week and it's this and that. And it's like, well, okay, but that's
you
not.
felt like you needed to share like the process of what it actually looked like.
Right.
Instead of what it did.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's really hard. It's hard to put into words. Like,
why do
happens.
people, you went through that training and you started to tell people that you were becoming a life coach, and who was your first, like, why do people, when people heard about the fact that you were becoming a life coach or that you were a life coach, what are some of the reasons why somebody would reach out to you? Like, what are some of the things that you heard? Or,
well, where my head is going is like the first person that I coached.
Yeah.
Which they didn't like, you know, come to me. I went to them because I needed practice clients while I was in school. And so I picked my our best friend of how many years. And I was like, hey, do you want to be my practice client? You know, I'm going to coach you. And she was receptive. Not like, oh my gosh, yes, please, can I? But she was like, yeah, you know, I will. She's supportive. So, and then like fast forward. So we worked together for almost a year, I would say. And typically I start with a 12-week program, but you know, you get started and it's like, we got to keep going.
Yeah.
And so I interviewed her like a year so afterwards, and she was telling me how at first when she told her husband, Luke, that I was going to be her life coach, she kind of laughed like, I'm helping Stevie out. Like
I'm like
she
doing
needs
her a
this.
favor.
Right. And then she was like, and then by the end I was like, oh my gosh, like Stevie helped me. I didn't know that I needed all that.
And she's an artist now.
Right,
she discovered that she's an artist. I actually wish I had her artwork, which, by the way, like,
I almost brought her card.
I know, we should have brought it. Hi, Megan. But so she like literally discovered that she was an artist. So, which leads me to like the things that you don't realize that like what you're doing is not, you're not fixing problems.
No,
you're helping people uncover and find their strength within, whether it's, empowering them to make decisions, whether it is, you know, helping them just kind of get through a point, whether it's a point in their life or if they're stuck or they just want change. They want change. In the 12-week program is to do that, which I'll share a little bit of my experience that I feel like I had with you. Well, I've had a million, and I always say like, to anybody listening, like, yeah, Stevie's my best friend. And like I said, to have her on here was like a no-brainer, right? People think, oh yeah, you're starting a podcast, you're going to have your best friend on, you're going to talk. Well, I feel so grateful that we have like a 3-dimensional relationship. I can talk to you literally in 3 different ways, like you're 3 different people. And I think a lot of that comes from like our friendship and how deep our friendship is and how much we love each other, but also how much I respect what you do. And how real of the transformation in my life has been. So, and I talked about how, you know, when you got your, we're going through your yoga training, I was also starting to practice yoga because I said, if she's doing this at the worst time in her life, like what the hell am I doing? Like, I didn't feel well. I just had my son. I was 35 pounds overweight still, 4 months after I had my son, my hips hurt. I was depressed because I just didn't know what my new life was. You know, I think that I just had a lot going on, and I knew I wanted better, but I didn't know how I was going to get there. Yoga was great. Yoga made me not yell in the morning.
And wait, can I just interject for 1 second? As you're like saying this, another thing that I think of with you that's like so you is you are like the most supportive person in the world. Like if I ever have anything new going on, I'm calling you because I want you to like be excited. And like that is probably a part of why you showed up with yoga all the time too, because I was just starting out as the teacher, and you're like,
Yeah.
well, I'm going to be there to
5
support
a.m.
her
I'm
at
like,
5
5
a.m. Yeah.
And then,
yeah.
yeah.
Right. Not a time that either of us ever liked to
Yeah.
see ever. Like
I would
that
come
wasn't
to your yoga class at 5 a.m. And then I said, oh, well, maybe I can go to Wednesdays too. And I'd go to the other instructor's class, and then I'd say, okay, I can go to Fridays as well. And then all of a sudden you decided to start having workshops, your life coaching workshops. And there was when I really started to put on paper and was held accountable to the next things that I would do in my life. And that took a lot of the fear out of any decision that I started to make moving forward, because when I started to physically feel well, like through yoga, and like the mental and physical connection was there, you did a Wheel of Life workshop. In the Wheel of Life, we went around, and if you want to explain what it is, maybe I should have brought it, right?
Oh, yeah, that's okay.
To explain what it is, but...
Yeah, so it's just like taking an inventory of your life. Like, where is my time? Where is my energy? Like, what's going well? Like, what parts of the wheel are going well? So it's different things. It's like career, finances, relationships. What was that one? Home environment. That Aaron thought was home improvement. And so all these different aspects of your life. And like what happens is people fill this out, and maybe if they've been feeling a certain way that they think is for like whatever reason, they look at this and they're like, oh, well, like I'm not experiencing any joy. I'm not like doing anything in my life that is joyful.
Or spiritually.
Right, spiritually. And so like, maybe that's why I'm feeling what I'm feeling. And you just start to look at your life.
Yeah.
No one really looks at their life.
Like super, it's a way to like have introspect on what is going on. And I remember doing that, and I'm like, my career, I'm not feeling great, or an education I didn't feel great about. Like I wasn't experiencing joy there. And I'm like, and I loved how these workshops made me feel. And I remember saying to myself, how do you get all of these people in one room, right? And we walk away feeling amazing. We walk away feeling great. But I want everybody to experience this. And it was like I wanted to scream from the rooftop, like everybody needs to experience this. And I remember it was that workshop where we did that, and we did some journaling around that. And at that time, I kind of knew I wanted to start a business, but I wasn't quite sure what that was going to look like. So instead I wrote down I was going to start a book club. And everybody in that room I told them about it, because we talked about it out loud. And I remember it was the first time I put that out there. And then other women that were part of that workshop started to reach out to me. They were like, so when are you starting your book club? Well, then I had to do it. I actually had to do it. And I'm like, it was that one small move that I made, and all it took was for me to create a Facebook page that was about the book club. We were on our way. You and I flew somewhere. Where were
Charlotte.
we flew to Charlotte on vacation, or to go see, our friend Megan.
And Oprah.
It was in Oprah. Yeah, it was like that was an amazing weekend. But that was when I said, okay, here's the name of it. It's called Open Book Club. Anybody, if you're interested in being part of a book club, it's a really amazing group of women, and it's also transformative in many ways as well. But I did that. And I did it, and in the first, our first meetup was when the world shut down. It was like March 17th, COVID happened, and I had to Zoom it. I didn't even know how to use Zoom. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Excuse my language. But, and it was Brene Brown's book about vulnerability. And the same exact day, my company shut down. And so first book club, first meetup, my company shuts down, COVID is happening. I have to figure out how to use Zoom, and these women are getting on. And I'm like, my face is red. I'd been crying half the day, and I have to talk about a book like that's surrounded about, like it's about vulnerability. and I don't even belong here. Like, what am I doing? And it was that moment, like then, Tiffany Rieger, she's always, I call her like my ride or die friend. She's just always there. And she was the first person that jumped on. And I just remember then another woman got on, another woman got on, another woman got on. And there was like 12 women that were on the Zoom. You were on. And it was that moment that I was like, I can do things. Like, I can do things. And I'll cry because, it was that moment that I didn't, we do a lot of things in our life, but there are some things that we just don't set our mind to and just like kind of follow through with it. And this was one thing that I didn't have to do because of money. I didn't have to do because of health. I didn't have to do for any other purpose but myself. And it was something that I wanted, and it was the first thing that I did. And that was huge. It was huge. And every single month it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And because of that, I followed through with that. Then I said, oh, okay, I'm going to get my real estate license. And I just did it. And once you get over that hurdle, I feel like, and this is where you have really been had the biggest impact on my life, is you taught me how to do something, to remove those barriers, just do something when you say that you're going to do it. And it can be for yourself. Yeah. And not for other people.
Right. That's probably huge thing that I teach people. Is
unapologetically.
You have to put your own oxygen mask on first. You're on an airplane. You have to take care of what's going on within you if you want to take care of anybody around you. And like you showing up that day, like it was scary. Like you can feel that feeling in your body, like that sweating, like fearful, the scariest thing ever. And then what happens is like you do the thing, and then afterwards is like this feeling that you've never experienced.
It's like euphoric
before.
Because you did it.
Right.
And everyone's like, how did you do it? But it's just a decision.
Right. And it's scary. And like every time you do the next thing, it's a little less scary.
Right.
Or maybe not even less scary, but you're used to those feelings, and then you know what's going to be on the other side. So you're willing to go through that horrible beginning to get to the other side and to impact other people, because you're not really going to impact other people if you don't like go through that.
Yeah. And that was like, so that was, it's like, that's so powerful. And then, so every other decision moving forward, my real estate license, just any decision that I've made, that was the biggest obstacle that I've overcame. But it's also allowed me, it's trickled into my marriage, into me as a mother. And I treat my kids the same way, where like, it's okay to do hard things, right? It's like Glennon Doyle, right? But that, my friends, is life coaching.
Yeah.
That's the transformation. And it could be as little as, starting a book club, but I just remember that feeling when everybody was in the room at your house or in your home, and, that workshop was over, and I just felt, I want everybody to feel this way. Everybody deserves to feel this way. Everyone deserves to talk about what brings them joy, and journal about, what is it about those things that will make you happy? What are you going to do about it? And to some people, it might seem like foo-foo, and I don't need to do this. I don't have time to do that. But it could be something that was a 30-minute workshop that changes your life. That's life coaching.
Yeah. And one thing, if I can add to that, is, and I was just talking to my client about this yesterday. One of my clients is the word acceptance. And I think that what I bring to the table as a life coach, in my workshops, in my one-on-one training is, my superpower is I'm very accepting. You can bring anything to me. I'm not gonna be I'm not even shocked inside. I'm really not, because I've experienced a lot. I've heard a lot. Somebody can experience the littlest thing in the world and be so affected by it, and somebody can experience the worst trauma in the world, and so I don't I don't like judge that one's harder than the
meet
other.
People where they are.
Yeah, meet people where they are and give them this space. So I think like you walking away and leaving, it's definitely like tapping into this self-discovery. And it's also like that this space has been created that like you can just be.
You can be. Yeah. And that's what I know people who have worked with you separately have felt with you, that they're so comfortable. And
it makes me think of your real estate too. Like,
yeah,
because you're very much that person.
Yeah.
And like people are like knocking down your door, like wanting you to do all kinds of things because
it has no boundaries. Their businesses,
right,
they have no boundaries.
Right.
Like life coaching, you could not have boundaries. Believe it or not, real estate has zero boundaries.
Right. I think life coaching probably has more boundaries.
I literally went from, talking with a client and, he was on a trip in a different country this week. And, we're working on a very stressful, real estate transaction. We're trying to get that done for him. And the next text was, hey, I think something's wrong with my dog. Can you go and check on my dog for me? And I'm like, sure, I will definitely go check on your dog for you because I am not just your real estate agent. I am all things. So
Right.
It's so funny. It really is so funny. Like It has no boundaries. Like another time somebody asked, and I'm going off, and then I have a few questions for you before we wrap today up.
Yeah.
But I was working with a client one time, and she was here trying to sell her son's house, and she didn't have a car because she had flown here. And I started to get texts of asking me if I could pick up cat medicine at the vet for her. And that became a weekly thing. And I'm on the phone with my husband. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, she doesn't live here anymore. I'm like, I'm going to get Fatima's cat medicine. He's like, what are you doing? It's in the middle of your workday. I'm like, this is just, you become part of people's lives, and it's not.
Well, when you're a trusting person, right? I don't know that anyone would ask their real estate agent.
Where, you're picking up cat medicine, but it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
And you love people, and you need to meet them where they are.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited about today, and I really appreciate you sharing everything that you did.
Yes, of course.
And if I wanted anybody to get anything out of today, I think that you said it all, and I'm grateful for where I am today and where I will be. And you are giving me your constant support, and whether it's a life coaching call or just like talking about life, I'm so grateful.
Right. Somehow they always turn into
life calls. It's amazing.
It might be my non-superpower. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, so I always end the podcast with a few quick questions, and they're just fun questions. So 3 things. Okay. Number 1, have you ever stolen anything?
Oh, yeah.
When is the last time?
Oh, the last time? Oh, man. You're really putting me on the spot. Target. It's happened a couple times. It wasn't on purpose. No.
No, I mean on purpose.
No purpose? Oh, when I was 10 years old, I stole a piece of gum from the corner store. And
I'm disappointed. I thought it was going to be something better than that.
No. Do you know me?
Yeah, yes, I do. I have a piece of gum. And
I felt horrible.
Oh my God.
Absolutely horrible. Like I still kind of feel horrible about it.
But
everybody else was stealing.
Yeah.
So that was how I justified it. And then I felt horrible that I justified it.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for sharing that.
Sorry, it wasn't.
No, that's okay. I mean, I was going to ask you when the last time you farted in public was, but I wouldn't make you do that on social media. And second question is, what are you proud of today?
Well, the first thing that came to my mind as you said that, I guess is just like of the mom and wife that I am today.
I love that.
And the transformation was necessary to be those things.
Yeah, or else you wouldn't be where you are.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Being a great mom and wife is so important because why else are we doing anything else besides for ourselves and for our families? So that's so important. I love that.
Yeah. I like that question.
And maybe your second question, or maybe the second question might trickle into the third one, but this has been a really interesting one. I asked it at book club, and we had some great conversations around it, but what do you want to be known for when you die?
The ripple. Absolutely. I was asked a question in yoga training. I don't even know how many years ago in this moment, but it was if you could do anything in the world, and money was no object and you could not fail, like, what would it be? And my immediate response was to own a Breathe yoga studio.
Yeah.
My favorite home, second to my own home.
Yeah.
And it was because of that, because I think that when you go in and help yourself, when you practice yoga, practice this whole self-inquiry kind of thing, like, you undoubtedly just affect people.
Yeah.
You're going to, even if you don't leave your house, you're going to affect people just by bettering yourself. And so
you didn't know how you were helping people, I bring it back to the book club and in my business, but you inspired me, you affected me. I started these things, and a lot of these women are so empowered when they come to book club because this is their outlet. And the conversations that we have are so supportive, inspiring. There's so much that comes out of it. And had I not had that been inspired by you and other people, that wouldn't be there today. That wouldn't be a safe space for women. And it is. So thank you.
That's awesome. Yes. You're so welcome.
So, and what are we doing this weekend? We're done. We're wrapping it up.
All right. We're going to the Jazz Fest.
So, yeah, we're going to the Jazz Fest. Thanks, Tot.
Thank you.
And thank you to Hill and Valley Productions for another successful podcast, episode 2 with Kate and Company. And I hope you tune in, and I hope you keep tuning in.